SCID. So let's do the rest here. Ataxia telangiectasia, and that'll kind of tell you everything you need to know about the disease. So, person's walking weird, and you have all these telangiectasias. The problem here is you can't detect DNA damage, can't halt the cell cycle. Well, DNA damage, if you can't really fix it, it's going to lead to cancer. As a result, these people get a lot of cancer, which it says right here. Hyper IgM syndrome, problem with the CD40 ligand. Look. Let's go back up here. Let's look at the two-factor authentication. Okay. Well, without the CD40 ligand working well, it's going to be really hard to secrete cytokines to end up doing class switching. And you remember how IgM is always the first one that's used because of its location, of course, on the coding strip. So, hyper IgM, what do you see? Well, you just see an increase in IgM. Alright, fantastic. Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome. Easiest thing to remember, thrombocytopenia, low platelets. Eczema, it's always the same thing. You've always got this young kid, he always has these golden spots on his face, alright? And he's got low platelets, constantly bleeding or something. Okay. Leukocyte adhesion deficiency. Careful. Type 1. There's a few different types, but this is the big one that they keep testing. What's the problem here? Migration and chemotaxis. As a result, you've got a whole bunch of your neutrophils. You've got a whole bunch of these things in the blood. Alright? They love testing you on this. They say decrease absolute neutrophil count. No. Neutrophils are fine. The problem is they're not going to be able to attach and then go through and go to where they need to go. And as a result, no neutrophils in the infection sites, decreased pus in that area. But that's not what they're going to tell you for you to know. They're going to say the umbilical cord does not separate. All the other stuff is completely true. All right. Of course, you have increased neutrophils in the blood, but you don't have it in the infection site. Why? Because problem with migration. Got it. But what's going to click it in your brain is going to have this. The umbilical cord is not going to separate. Okay. Hideaki-Higashi syndrome. Problem with the phagosome-lysosome fusion. Some sort of albinism. They'll always ask this. This is, everything else, it's not really, for everything else, it's not as, specific. But the partial albinism is really what will give everything away. Because you'll be thinking immediately that you have some sort of immunodeficiency, right? And you'll start going through the B cell count, the T cell count, the different antibodies and stuff. But what's going to give it away is the albinism. And then you know it's the Hideaki-Higashi syndrome. And it's a problem with phagosome-lysosome fusion. And we've been through this before. Chronic granulomatous disease, problems with NADPH oxidase, can't make reactive oxygen species. Well, if you have a problem with making reactive oxygen species, you're missing one of the factors with which you can kill bacteria. Because we can go down or go up here, and let's check everything out. Well, if you don't have NADPH oxidase, you can't make this reactive oxygen species. Of course, reactive oxygen species kill a lot of things, including bacteria. So, let's say your bacteria somehow doesn't get killed by this. Well, then hopefully it gets killed later with like the bleach and stuff. But what if it has catalase? Well, then it won't get affected here because it's got its catalase, and it'll turn your H2O2 into H2O and NO2 and whatever. So your best bet is this right here. But if they have catalase, they're not getting affected here, And if you don't have your NADPH oxidase, then they're not getting affected here. Well, then now your catalase positive organisms are just going to survive. Okay, so that's everything. Quickly again, Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome, thrombocytopenia, and eczema. Leukocyte adhesion deficiency, a lot of them are in the blood. Why? Because they can't cross over. You don't have any neutrophils in your infection site, and as a result, you have absent pus. But what's going to give it away is the late separation of the umbilical cord. Albinism will give away Kiriak Higashi, or Hideaki Higashi. I have no idea how to pronounce this. But I think that ch sounds kind of hard to make, so. And ataxia telangiectasia, it's in the name again.